Um, Hi everyone. Thinking I'm having an issue with the audio. Okay, now I think it's okay. Hi everyone. Thinking I'm having an issue with the audio. Okay, now it's okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the self-knowledge lectures. Today we are having our lecture number 24 of the phase A of this self-knowledge course. And today we are going to be talking about the I of Treason, a very, very interesting topic. Let me check again that the audio is okay. Just allow me a second. I of Treason. Yeah, I think it's okay. Okay. So, in today's lecture, we are going to be delving into this thing of treason. We are going to see what is treason and what is the reason why we constantly betray others, but especially our unconsciousness. And today we are going to know the three traders of our psychology that, well, they are, or we can see them represented in that historical cosmic drama that was the drama of the crucifixion of Master Jesus. Actually, there we had three characters that personificate the three traders that also exist in our consciousness. So today we are going to know by studying this historical, question and our psychological question, we are going to know how all of our defects are actually structured through treason. So in this lecture, it's going to be very interesting because we are going to see and to know these three traders, and if we get to identify them in our inner world, these internal aspects of our own treason, we are going to see how we are all the time betraying our consciousness to satisfy our ego. Okay, and well, as I always say, if you have any question about this topic, you can leave your questions down there in the chat, and I will be gladly solving any one of your questions. The same, if you want, you can contact me through the messenger of the page, and I will also be solving your questions. If you see this video through YouTube, you can also leave your questions there, and I will be solving any question that you have. Okay, so as always, let's start this lecture live by entering into context, explaining what is treason. Actually, I think you know, but let's explain this to get into context. Treason is, or to commit treason, is to break or to breach a covenant or agreement. Okay, so for it to be treason, there must be a previous agreement that can be betrayed. Actually, we on the physical plane know treason when, for example, a boyfriend tells a girlfriend that he will love her for life, and after 15 days he's bored, or he goes away with another girl. In fact, the boyfriend already made a promise and he broke it. Then there is treason. Or when we agree to, for example, pay some money on such a date, and being able to do so, we don't do so. Obviously, there is treason there since a pact is being breached. So, for us to be clear, treason is to violate or breach a pact or a commitment that we have. Okay. Now, the important thing is to know what is like the greatest commitment that we have made. We all came from that source, that sacred absolute sun, here to this physical manifestation with a purpose. We are not here just as visitors or tourists. No. Each one of us descended into this physical manifestation to achieve mastery. to achieve the self-realization of our inner being, to reach the awakening of 100% of our consciousness. So actually, we all made a pact with our inner being, with our consciousness, to come and to achieve that purpose and return to that source triumphant. So we came here to experience, to get to know ourselves, to rescue all the wisdom from the ego, and to turn all of our darkness into light. So every time that we receive the knowledge, this knowledge of the three factors for the consciousness revolution in one existence, internally we are like we're taking that pact of self-realization, and that pact of working for that purpose at any cost. But to achieve this, we will have to face the three enemies of the inner Christ that you know is the fire of our consciousness that we all carry inside, those three traitors. And these three aspects are what forms the I of Treason. That is why we name this as the I of Treason, because treason is like a way of being in our interior. Okay, let's remember the lecture number 28, where we were talking about the universal and the individual Christ. And there we were explaining what Christ really is. So we were talking about, the cosmic drama that Master Jesus came to represent in the whole land, and that in order to open the sense of initiation in this race, and left embodied in the collective memory through what was his life and passion, the path that every aspirant to incarnate his inner Christ must live, but internally. So the initiates of all times have had to live this same cosmic drama, the one that lived Master Jesus in Holy Land, within themselves. And each one of us, if we want to self-realize, at some point we will have to live this same cosmic drama, but within ourselves. That, of course, if we aspire to Christification, to total liberation. And actually, through self-observation, we realize that we live it. We are living like in a small portion this cosmic drama within ourselves from moment to moment. Ultimately, the Christ is our unconsciousness that is born in us, that grows up in us. It grows up in us, and that has to get all the merchants out of this temple that is our physical body. We know that, the temple of the Holy Spirit, that is our sexual creative energy, is our own body. And the merchants are all of our psychological defects, all of our ego, who give us pleasure in exchange for our valuable energy. Okay? And the Christ, our consciousness, must eliminate all of those undesirable elements that we carry in our interior, and all those psychological aggregates in our interior. Of course, they hate the Christ. They hate the light because they themselves are darkness. So they hate consciousness to death, and they actually cry out for crucifixion for our internal Christ. So today we are going to see how we are actually crucifying our intimate Christ, which is our consciousness, at every moment. So we are going to see, so I was saying, like the relationship between what happened historically with what happens from moment to moment inside us. Okay, so we need to understand that the cosmic drama is not exclusive to a master. It is for all of those who want to crucify themselves, because the Christ is a force of our consciousness. Okay, so let's remember that the Christ was rejected by the priests, the elders, and the scribes. And the priests, you can see that they hate him. They hated him, and that is to say that they don't understand him. They want the Lord of perfections to live exclusively in time, according to all of their dogmas. And the elders, at that time, that are like the inhabitants of the earth, that are like the good owners of their house, the judicious people, the people of experience, they actually hated the Christ. The Christ because the Christ is like a rebel, you know? Sorry. And he doesn't want to live in the world of their habits and all of their old-fashioned customs. All of those reactionary and petrified customs, of all these elders. And the scribes of the temple, and you're going to see that all of this has a relationship within us. And these scribes of the temple are the rocks of the intellect. And they actually abhor the intimate Christ because he himself is the antithesis of the Antichrist, which is the intellectualism. And he is like declared enemy of all that heap of theories that abound so much in this market of bodies and souls. And well, likewise, if we want to develop our inner Christ, we will have to face our own priests, our own elders, and the scribes of the temple that lives inside of us. Our priests are all of our fanatic selves in our puritanical, our celibate, our sex-hating selves that reject to see that to develop the inner Christ, it is necessary, absolutely necessary, to make a sexual work. So inside of us, we're going to find that force of the ego that rejects to understand and to comprehend that if we want to awaken our consciousness, we need to make a serious work with our sexual energy. And we need to achieve chastity. And we need to practice actually a lot of sex, but of suprasexuality. And those are the bits inside of us that we need to face if we really want our consciousness to develop in us. And the elders in ourselves, the good owners of house, the judicious people, they represent our customs, our beliefs, our dogmas that are like stumbling blocks when we want to develop our consciousness above what is morally or socially established. Okay, and the scribes of the temple, they represent our intellectual selves, full of theories. We have a lot of theories inside of us, a lot of concepts, a lot of doubts, and a lot of skepticism. And those selves in our interior don't allow us to open ourselves to practice and to directly experience the reality. Okay, and those are actually strong enemies that we are going to have to face internally in ourselves in order to start down this path of the self-realization, of getting to know ourselves. But once we decide to take the path of the initiation, that we decide ourselves to break with all of this and start working on ourselves, we are going to realize that within us, in our own psyche, exist three traitors. Exists Judas, which is the demon of the desire. Exists Pilate, which is the demon of the mind, of the justifications. And Caiaphas, which is the demon of the ill will. And you're going to see that they will constantly be leading us to betray this inner path. Okay? The first one, so let's like detail each one of them. The first traitor is Judas. Historically, we know Judas as that disciple of the Master Jesus who betrayed him by selling him for 30 silver coins, and who later, as you know, commits suicide by hanging himself with a donkey's lasso. But it is important to clarify, and this is very important, that Master Judas only represented the character of traitor in that cosmic drama, because he is a self-realized master. Yes, he is. And he was aware of all his role in the cosmic drama, and he consciously agreed to collaborate with Master Jesus, taking on that difficult role of representing that traitor that is the demon of desire that we all have. And actually, we can all invoke Master Judas in the astral plane, and we can get to corroborate that he is a master and receive interesting and important teachings from him. Of course, we can do. And in the historical drama, we can see that he betrayed the Christ for money. And that is representing how all of our desires sell the Christ, which is our inner fire, in this physical world in exchange of pleasure, in exchange for fame, for money. And at every moment, in return, we surrender to the multiple desires that we feel during the whole day, and we are betraying our Christ, by changing our energy, by trapping our consciousness in exchange of the ephemeral pleasure that the ego is like all the time giving us. So you can see that Judas in our interior actually represents the demon of desire, and he is the enemy of nature, of our superior nature. So he is the enemy of the spiritual birth, since this enemy in our interior prevents all the superior creations to be done in us, because he is the whole day selling our inner fire that we actually need in order to be born spiritually through the practice of the supersexuality. So this Judas in our interior represents all of our desires and temptations. Desire is actually the source of all strength. And you're going to see that trapped in each of our desires is the fire. When you feel a desire, you feel like here in the emotional center, that's fire, like like if it is burning. And that fire is actually our strength. And if we don't deny our desires, we will never have the fire that we must bring to our practices of sexual transmutation, and we are going to spend like years doing the practice, but without really achieving any real progress. Desire, so, is the source of strength, because fire is actually the life, the strength that like animates anything. And if we continually surrender to our desires, we were going to continue to be slaves of our desires. But if we start refusing them, we are going to start rescuing that fire that is trapped in desire, that is conditioned in desire, and we are going to end up becoming masters of the force. So, how are we going to work this demon, to work these desires? Well, actually, in the Gospel of Judas that was discovered in 1978, we find that he said, "Blessed is he who sees in my light the light of my master." And he also said, "Blessed is he who can follow my rabbi without hearing my voice." And actually, in this quotes, he's giving us like a key. And this key is that when one manages to see the fire, the Christ that is trapped in desire, we can rescue it. But when we don't see it, when we just satisfy our desires, we lose our fire at every moment. So learning to fight this traitor is very important if we really want to advance in the great work. Otherwise, we will never start, like for real, the esoteric work. Okay? And well, this demon is actually defeated by denying our desires. Desire is fire, and by working the psychological death, by dying from moment to moment, we rescue the fire for consciousness. So we release the fire that is trapped in every desire. And you need to see that during the day, we actually have thousands of desires. Desire to fight, desire to criticize, desire to watch porn, to masturbate, to fornicate, desire to have any type of idle conversations, desire to drink, desire to smoke, desire to eat, etc., etc. And trapped in each of our desire, there is a portion of our Christic fire, of our consciousness that we must rescue. So if we defeat this demon, we are going to be able to start to create in ourselves, those existential bodies of our being. Well, that is the first traitor. That is Judas. The first thing that you feel when you are going to betray is a desire. Okay. The second traitor is Pilate, and we know him historically as the Roman governor of Judea. And he betrayed Christ, condemning him, and then declaring himself like innocent of this, blaming others for his decision, because he made the people choose between Barabbas and the Christ. So when the people choose the freedom of the thief in exchange for that of the Christ, Pilate just washed his hands and make himself look like blameless. And that is our inner Pilate. That is what our inner Pilate does all the time. And in ourselves, it represents the demon of the mind, of all of our justifications. We feel a desire, and what we commonly do is that we go ahead and we justify that desire. We justify, we find like a reason in our mind for why we just why we must go and satisfy that desire. Okay, so what we commonly do is the same as Pilate. We put our ego to choose between the desire, between like our consciousness, or to Christic fire, or to the ego, or to satisfy our desire. So what we do is that we constantly let the mind speak instead of right away judging ourselves and eliminating that desire. We let the mind speak. We let our mind look for justifications to give free rein to our desires, but always with a good justification. Okay, and thus we always betray our inner Christ while we just wash our hands, because we always have a good justification. We always, all the time, have very, very good intentions. So if we feel, for example, desire to fight, to shout, to offend, we give in to that desire. We fight, we yell, we offend, but we justify ourselves like by blaming the other person, that he was the one that made me react like that because he said that thing or he did that. In that way, we are not judging ourselves. We are justifying ourselves by blaming others. Okay. And that is what we do like all the time. So we always have a good, perfect excuse, okay? And, for example, that we feel the desire to take something that doesn't belong to us, and we give in to that desire. But first, we justify ourselves, saying, for example, by saying that we needed that, or that the owner actually didn't need that so much, or that it is not something so valuable anyways, okay? Or that anyone is going to notice it. And so we are like there looking for any justification to give in to our desires. That we feel, for example, a desire to spill our sexual energy. We go and we do it, and we justify ourselves with the fact that it will be, for example, the last time, or that achieving chastity is something like very difficult. In that way, we are finding any excuse to not deny ourselves our desires, and we all the time end up betraying our consciousness. Allow me just. Sorry. Um, um, we were talking about the justifications, and well, you know that we all have a lot of justifications. Our mind contains a lot of concepts that support and justify our bad actions. This trader is like the intermediate between the desire and the action, the actual process of treason. Because we first feel the desire, then we justify ourselves, and then we do that we shouldn't do, or we stop doing that we should do. And we end up treasoning our consciousness or any person. And this demon of the mind, is the enemy of the wisdom, because through the understanding and the elimination of our psychological defects is from we take like the wisdom out of it. So this demon is actually the enemy of wisdom, because he always finds a way out, a justification to for us to remain the same, for us to never get to judge ourselves ruthlessly and to eliminate our psychological defects. So this demon doesn't allow us to die in ourselves, to practice a psychological death, because we are never guilty. The guilty ones are always others, or life, or God, but never us. That is the problem with this demon that we all have here in our mind. Now, how to work this traitor? How are we going to fight this demon so we stop betraying our consciousness through this constant justification? Well, very easy. We must stop justifying ourselves. We have to broadly judge ourselves. We must not accept loopholes. We must become serious with our inner work. We shouldn't feed the intellect with so many theories, with so many concepts, so that we are able to start like integrating our minds. Let's remember that the best way of thinking is not thinking. And with all the intellectualism that we have, the mind has degenerated and is no longer silent. Okay? So actually we must know that our mind should be at all times like in charge of judging ourselves, of judging our psychological defects. And we must know, as I was explaining, that the wisdom comes only from the death of our psychological defects. When we ask for death for a defect, it like liberates light, which is wisdom, and liberates fire, that is love. And this demon well prevents a psychological death because we are all the time blaming others. We are all the time judging others instead of judging ourselves and to judging our own actions to find there the hidden psychological defects that are like all the time. So we always find thousands of justification for not or this demon finds all the time lots of justifications for not letting us to do the things of our being, and lots of justifications for us to continue doing the things of the ego or of the personality. And this demon is only defeated by judging ourselves broadly and never judging others. And in exchange, we are going to regain wisdom. Okay, and the third traitor is Caiaphas. Caiaphas historically was a Jewish high priest who, when knowing who the Christ was, felt like threatened in like his power and sought the crucifixion of Master Jesus. So he knew who Jesus was, and he yet condemned him, so he acted like a weak and ill will, And actually, this third traitor is the most dangerous of them all. And he just represents in us our ill will. And it is manifested when knowing what we should do, or knowing that we should do something, we don't do it. Okay? And knowing that we shouldn't do something, we go and we do it. There is our ill will. So in our interior, he represents like that third head of our treason. That is this, the demon of the ill will, which is the one that is manifested after we felt a desire. We go and we justified it with our mind, and we end up acting against our consciousness, against the development of our inner Christ by doing what the ego wants, or by not doing what we should do in favor of our inner being. So he is the most dangerous because also karma is generated here. Karma is not generated in the mind or in our desires, but in what we do against others or what we don't do in favor of others. Okay? So he is the enemy of the truth, because if the truth is the being, let's say that it is the enemy of the being. It wants to prevent us from doing the work of the being. And he represents our words and our actions and our omissions in like the field, of facts. So he makes us all the time promise and do not fulfill what we have promised. He makes us to waste our time on little things that are of the least importance, are not of the least importance. And he doesn't let us to practice anything, because this demon in us actually wants, as he feels like the leader, he wants to self-realize, but without working, because that is the ill will. Ill will is actually a lot of laziness. And this demon is especially enemy of the sacrifice for humanity, because he doesn't let us do. He doesn't let us do things in favor of others. He's never, if we don't combat this ill will that we all have, we will never find the time, the time to share, for example, this knowledge with other people. And because we have this demon inside of us, so big, so well fed, we always have goodwill for wasting time, for example, on the cell phone and social networks, looking at memes, watching videos, playing for hours, video games, for example. We have a lot of willingness to watch TV, to watch series on Netflix, goodwill for parties and rebels, goodwill for sleeping, a lot, resting, willingness to fornicate, willingness to adulterate. But for things of consciousness, we are lazy, we are sleepy, we are yawning, But to talk for hours, watching TV, for wasting time of networks, go out or anything that is attractive to the ego, we get encouragement from where there is none. That is our ill will. We have a terrible ill will for the things of the consciousness. If you desire to establish a discipline in your inner work, in your esoteric work, you're going to find out the bad will that you're going to start experiencing, bad will to practice. Even to practice conscious astral projection, you're going to find that you have a terrible bad will, because what we prefer is to go to bed and just let us go and go there dreaming all the time. And that is our ill will. We have ill will to stay awake during the day. In self-observation, discovering all the manifestation of our ego. Ill will to meditate, to get up early, to concentrate, to at night do our retrospection practices, to work to develop conscious love by sacrificing ourselves for others. So we have a lot of unwillingness to talk to someone about knowledge, to hand out flyers, for example, of this knowledge, to teach this knowledge, etc. Okay? And we need to, if we really want to advance, to develop our consciousness, we need to combat our terrible ill will. Okay? And how are we going to work this trader of our consciousness? Well, by making conscious sacrifices and going through voluntary sufferings. What are a conscious sacrifice? Well, to consciously stop pleasing the ego, failing to do what the ego wants, and doing the things of the consciousness. In that way, undoubtedly, the ego will suffer. Of course it will suffer. But we are also going to eliminate those feelings of suffering, and we are going to release from them the fire, the Christ that is trapped there. And in that way, we are going through voluntary suffering by withstanding the pressure and the resistance of the ego. For example, the desire that is always submitting us and letting us fall in ill will is, for example, smoking, or is the consumption of any drug. So when we feel the desire, we feel that fire that moves in us, making us want to fall once again, smoke once again, to take that drug once again. Okay, if we at that point refuse that desire, we refuse to indulge desire, we defeat the first traitor. And if we don't justify ourselves, instead we judge that psychological defects, we recognize that it's actually a psychological defect that is moving in us and that it must die, and we beg the Divine Mother to eliminate it. We don't justify ourselves, we there defeat the second traitor. And if we refuse to feed, to do it, and we there resist like the pressure of the self, this suffering, and we start eliminating that anxiety, all that suffering that these selves are generating in us by not being able to feed the ego, start suffering suffering in us. We consciously and voluntarily go through that process of suffering of the ego. We are defeating the third traitor, and we from that, rescue a lot of power, a lot of strength, a lot of wisdom, and we reach the truth. Okay, the truth about that. We free ourselves, and we free that fire that this vice of that of smoking or any drug had conditioned. We are not surrendering our energy to be crucified by the ego, but rather we are liberating it. And once we defeat this demon, we find the truth and we achieve wisdom. Okay? And here you can see how we find the three traitors within ourselves in our three brains. In our emotional brain, we find our Judas, as here is where all desires arise. In our intellectual brain, we find our pilot, as we currently use our mind to justify our ego, and is in our motor instinctive sexual brain where the ill will manifests. So we must be constantly self-observing ourselves, watching our mind, our emotion, and our sex to be alert, and when any defect wants to manifest by making us feel a desire, by taking us to betray our consciousness, to crucify our inner fire, we deny ourselves the desire, and we don't justify ourselves, and we don't fall into ill will. And in that way, if we do that all times, we are going to be constantly recovering consciousness, and we will be able to bring this inner work to its goal, to its completion. Okay. And now there are, to finish, there are some acts that are known as treason to the inner work, which we must take into account in order to never fall into these errors that can cost us the loss of the right to find the way through many existences. One is mixing the knowledge with pseudo-esoteric things, as we studied in lecture 25, remember? Because that way we are perverting the pureness of the teaching for us and for others, and we are deviating our path and the path of others. Another one is having received this knowledge and having begun to work, we decide to betray the work when we identify ourselves with the things of the world and we withdraw from our inner work. That way, living, the esoteric work. Okay, and also we commit treason to the work when we fornicate at will. Okay, already knowing the importance of the sexual energy, by ill will we go and we spill our sexual energy. And also, when already having chastity, we take another partner, thus adulterating. That is, we have a partner with which we practice the supersexuality, and we go and we have sex with another one. That is a treason to the work, and that is have terrible consequences. And we betrayed the work when, before the decision of the path that is proposed to us at the beginning of the fifth initiation, we choose the path of nirvana. That way, we betray our intimate Christ, and that is also a treason to the work. Okay, and well, people, this has been today's lecture. I hope that you found it useful and interesting. Um, and remember that all the selves, all of our eyes, are traitors. They lead us all the time to betray our own energy and to betray our unconsciousness. So, in the end, all the selves are judged for treason. And well, I will leave you with the invitation to our next lecture, a very useful lecture, in which we are going to be talking about what we must do so that the practices give us positive results. In that lecture, we are going to be analyzing the different aspects that may be preventing us from developing the practices, and we are going to see how we can resolve all those aspects. You can see here lack of concentration, lack of faith, fear, lack of objective. We are going to be studying all of that. So this has been all for today. Thank you very much to all of you. Well, see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.